Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Website Development 1111 .NET Framework with Web Databases course, I've been going through a series of 12 articles from DotNetOdyessy, part of their ASP.NET MVC5 free course. We've so far gone through Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, Chapter 4, Chapter 5, and even though I had a little bit of problem with it, Chapter 6, which, as you can guess, brings us to Chapter 7. In this chapter, we're going to learn about basics of CSS and Bootstrap. Once you complete this chapter, you'll understand the fundamentals of CSS and how to use the most popular front-end framework, Twitter Bootstrap. That, to be honest with you, is pretty high praise of themselves. All right, and I don't say that in a mean way. I really and truly do not. It's just that there's a lot in there, and even though this is one of the bigger chapters at 19 pages, like I said, that's still a lot to expect. So let me open up our micro MDB database. I think that's the one we'll be working with. An exception was encountered. Well, that isn't good, but whatever. So good. I don't see any errors right there. That's always a good sign. All right, then let's jump back into our article here. Not sure what exactly is happening here. I actually do know I'm on the wrong page. There we go. All right. So, as it says in this chapter, we're going to learn about the basics of Bootstrap and CSS. CSS, cascading style sheets, as it says, helps your web pages. It helps your web pages look more aesthetically pleasing. Okay? CSS makes applying styles to your elements simple and flexible. Pretty much I'd agree with that. All right. For this chapter, I would like you to use Notepad++ instead of Visual Studio. Visual Studio has many tabs and windows that may distract you. Notepad++ is, yeah, whatever. All right. So they want us to do some typical CSS. This should be a lot of review for us, all right, because we've had this kind of stuff before. So let's pretty this up a tad. So we've got a very simple little document here with a paragraph in it that says this is a sentence in a paragraph. Let's save that. And we'll put that right on our desktop, and we'll call it the old index.html. Again, one nice thing about Notepad++ is it is somewhat has the colors in it. Okay, so it's color sensitive or whatever you'd want to call that. So let's continue on. If we run it, it should look like this. Well, we can do that. I don't even know the reason for doing that, but there it is. This is a sentence in a paragraph. Okay, nice. All right. Tell you what, I've got to stop opening up the wrong page here. All right. I want the paragraph text to be bold by applying styles. So what we're going to do is we're going to use what's typically referred to as inline CSS. Inline meaning that we're putting it right into the HTML itself. This is not a recommended way of doing it. If this works, the sentence that's right here should now be bolded. So we'll save. We'll look at what we had just a second ago. Oopsie. And we'll refresh. And indeed, you can see that it has been bolded. CSS style is nothing but a rule associated with a set of elements. Okay. Each rule has a set of properties with values. In the above example, our rule is making the paragraph text bold by using the font weight property. Again, it's known as an inline style. The disadvantage of this approach is the fact that there is no separation of concerns. Now, we've talked about separation of concerns with our model view and controller, and it's very similar in concept to the separation of concerns that we want between our CSS, our HTML, and our JavaScript. What if we want to apply the same style to another element? We might have to copy this style again, and as it says, we'd have to put it in two different places. That's kind of silly. Another approach is to sit and literally put it in here, typically what's referred to as internal CSS, meaning that we're putting it right in here. What this says literally is pretty much what you think it is, and that is that what we want here is we want any paragraph and any div to be bolded. All right? And I believe we were supposed to come in here and add a div. Just trying to pretty it up a tad. All right, so now hopefully both the paragraph and the div, okay, will be bolded. And you can see they are. All right, no rocket science here. I mean, it should hopefully make sense. There's the rule. As it says there, when you define a style, you need to say which type of element you're applying the style to. All right. Rules are sets of properties with values. So we've hit on a little bit of this. There's other ways that you can apply styles. All right. You can use IDs and you can use classes. Again, this should be a lot of review for you, and as far as that goes, it should make total sense to you right here that what we're talking about is IDs ideally being placed on something that appears only once on a page, where classes basically are set up on things that at least conceivably could be placed on many elements on the same page. All right. So here what you'll notice is that's an ID because it starts with a pound sign. We're calling it para. So let's go in just to show you, again, all reviews, so all of this should make sense. Let's get rid of this. All right, so now we've got para. And literally what we're saying here is what? We're saying anything with the ID of para should be bolded. Well, right now, notice there's nothing with an ID of para. So if I save this go back again to where we were, and run this, nothing should be bolded. All right? Well, why is that bolded? It says this is a sentence in a paragraph. So let's see if we can figure out why. Oh, because we still have that in there. So let's just put in a P, just a P tag. And now let's check, and neither should be highlighted or bolded, and neither is. But if I come through here and I say ID equals para, you'll notice that that is highlighted. In the same way, if I had taken this and put it in here on the div, okay? Now, one thing about this, just so you're aware of it, that is, first of all, para is not a good name. Why? Well, if you are 100% sure that the only thing you're ever going to be bolding are paragraphs, maybe it's not a bad name. But notice how we're using it here. We're using a paragraph name for a div. All right? A better name here would have been something like bold text. Something like that. It's always a better idea, at least in my humble opinion, if you make the name of something indicative of the way that you're using it. All right? Now, even bold text, is that a great name? No, because later if you want to change that to italic text, etc. All right? But you can see, I think at least, it's better than the name we currently have. All right? When you work with classes, instead of prepending it with a pound sign like we just saw, you prepend it with a dot. So again, if we come through here and we change this to a dot, all right, now we'd have to change this to class equal bold text. Let's grab this paragraph we have here. Let's put it in there 3 times. In the middle one, we'll put in here class equal bold text. Now, only that middle paragraph should actually, that and the div, I believe, should be bolded. Okay? All right, again, you use classes for things that can conceivably appear multiple times on the same page. It says first we applied it by using inline, then we created styles in the head section. But the problem with this approach, as it says, is what if we want these styles to appear on other pages? What we really should do is grab this thing. In fact, let's just grab it from where we have it. All right, and that is we'll take this without the style tags, cut it, create a new file, paste it. We'll call this style.css, which is a common name. You'll notice again the coloring. All right, then we have to come back into here and get rid of these style tags and replace them with a link, rel for the relationship equals style sheet, href, so the hypertext reference is style.css. What we should notice, I have saved that now, this, this should not change. It should look exactly the same when I refresh, and it does. But now we've used an external file. where we pulled the CSS out and put it in its own file. As it says, this approach makes things simple and offers flexibility, and again, it offers that separation of concerns that we talked about earlier. All right. Okay, let's stop right now, and we will hit on the second part of the chapter, which is talking about Bootstrap. All right, we'll do that in the next section of this.